Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. This is Ciara from Ciara T Designs, and today I have these really pretty alcohol ink cards to share with you. So let's jump right in. So I do have a piece of Yupo here. This is a scrap I had left, so I'm actually just going to cut it down to be about 1/8 of an inch smaller than my A2 base, which is 4 1/4 by 5.5 when scored. And I prefer Yupo. I have had this question several times now when I do alcohol inks, and people ask if there's any other cardstock they can use. And there is. You can use any glossy or non-porous surface, but Yupo I find is always what I get the best results with if I want kind of a wispy look, which is generally what I'm going for. So I've brought in my blending solution. I added that down on an angle across the Yupo, and then I'm going to bring in 4 different colors of alcohol ink. I started with Splendor and Enchanted. These are pearls because I like the pearls. They're really pretty. You could use regular alcohol inks. Any pink and orange are going to go beautifully together. And I just kind of work them back and forth until I'm happy. If there's an area that I feel is not what I want it to look like, I add a little bit of blending solution. If I want a little more color, of course, I add a little bit more ink. But I do try to start very light-handed with alcohol inks because it's really easy to add too much too quickly. And you can wipe the background off if you don't like it and start over because it is, like a plastic paper. But I find if I just start light-handed, you add 1 drop of color at a time and work from there, I am always really happy with the results at the end. So that's kind of my way of working with them. There's no right or wrong here. You do you, whatever you prefer. I love the very wispy look to alcohol inks. And so that's always kind of what I'm aiming for when I'm working with them. And now this is only sped up 2 times. So this is, I think it took me about 5 minutes to make each background because I try not to go too overboard. Like I know what kind of look I'm wanting. I want kind of a wispy light look. So that's what I'm aiming for. And I love alcohol inks on an angle. I just like that as a colored panel. I think it's really pretty. So that's kind of what I'm aiming for. So each background only took me about 5 minutes to make. Now, granted, keep in mind, I've worked with alcohol inks several times. I've been working with them for a while. They're one of my favorite mediums outside of ink blending, or inks in general. So, it may take you a bit longer, but just be patient, start slow, and see how it goes and kind of build from there. The second colors are Tranquil and Villainous. These, of course, are again pearls. And I had to switch out my blending solution there. I was at the bottom of a bottle, so I had to jump over to my other bottle. But I do greatly prefer blending solution because I want a blended look. You could use alcohol instead if that's what you prefer. There's no right or wrong. But keep in mind, with the pearls, you do have to use blending solution, or the kind of mica inside of the alcohol ink will just flake off and it won't stay on your Yupo or your non-porous surface. So just keep that in mind. If you had regular alcohol inks, you wouldn't have to bring in blending solution. You could just use any kind of alcohol. Usually I aim for 99%, but there's no wrong here. It's just whatever your preference is. It's just that if you're going to use the pearls, because of the pearlescent mica in them, you do have to kind of make sure that stays on the background, and that the way to do that is blending solution because it has a glycerin in it. So yeah, just keep that in mind if you're going to bust them out. You can see here my wrist was getting a bit tired from blowing these because like I said, each background took me about 5 minutes. So it was about 10 minutes of ink blending. So my wrist was starting to get sore from using the air tool, but you can of course get electric air tools if you don't want to use the air blower that I have. But if you don't have an air blower, you can use a straw. Just be careful. Try really hard not to inhale. I used a straw before I had the air blower. So there's nothing wrong with that. Just be aware and be careful so you're safe. And then I'm going to bring in, this is one of my favorite Tim Holtz dies. It's the leaf fragment dies. Honestly, I don't think you can get these anymore. You might be able to find them on eBay. If you can get them, I will, of course, have them linked and listed down below as always. But I I don't think you can get them. I used them in a different video a little while ago, and I'm pretty sure I was told in that video that they were no longer available. So I will try to list something if there's anything similar. I don't really feel like there is, but you could in your stash use any leaf die that you have that, has a little bit of openness to it. So if you had maybe like an outlined leaf, that would work. You just want to be able to see some of the alcohol ink through the leaves, if that makes sense. So it's kind of what I'm aiming for. But there's no right or wrong here. If you don't have leaves, use open flowers. If you don't have those, maybe try feathers. You're just trying to cover up a little bit of the alcohol ink background with something. And I chose to go with white leaves here, and I'm not going to do anything to them. They're just going to be white, just because I loved the stark contrast of it. And I thought about using vellum. I even cut vellum leaves and put them on top. But because of how wispy and white, like very, very light this background is, you couldn't even see the vellum leaves. So I opted to go with the white, which was how I saw it in my head in the beginning. So you could try vellum if you want to go with that look. I just found that you couldn't even tell there was leaves on the background. So I did not. I ended up going with just white. And of course, Ember had to come and check out what I was up to here. She wandered through a few times, stepped on stuff just to make sure it was acceptably dry, puts her tail across my alcohol ink. Thankfully, they're dry at this point, so it doesn't really matter. But if you ever get a card from me and it has a cat hair stuck to it, I apologize. It's really hard to keep hair out of things because they like to come and supervise my crafting. So so I just poked all the holes out of my leaves, and then now I'm going to work on my sentiments. So I chose to make these birthday cards, but again, they could be anything. These are pretty versatile, and you could change up your colors if you needed a more masculine card. You could, use more masculine colors. I mean, I think blue and purple are really pretty, and you could use that for a gentleman, but it depends on the gentleman, of course. So I'm trying to use my magnetic mat there, and it just kept jumping when I tried to lay down my little sentiment label here. These sentiments are from Simon Says Stamp. They have these really fun laser printed sentiment sheets. So you can, of course, foil this. I opted not to. I like the white on black. It's kind of a look I was going for. But you could foil them if you wanted to. And of course, here Aqua is going to come in and check out what I'm up to. She was actually laying in front of my switch at this point. So I had to kind of shift her so that I could get this in the switch to be cut. So that was kind of funny, but she's going to wander. She's going to keep her tail on everything and make sure that all my cards have a little bit of cat hair because, why not? This is one of my new kittens. They are just 6 months old now, so pretty exciting. They get to go to the vet now and be fixed, of course. So I just ran that through my die cutting machine with the strip die, and that kind of gives you this fun label sentiment that I really enjoy. And like I said, make this anything. They could be Easter cards, they could be birthday cards. Well, they are birthday cards. They could be thank you cards, they could be thinking of you cards, they could be just saying hello. Like there's so many things you could do here, just switching up the sentiment to make it what you need it to be. So keep that in mind. It doesn't have to be birthday. It's just that I always seem to be lacking birthday and thank you cards. Those seem to be the ones that I use the most. So when I'm making a card and I'm not sure what it's going to be, that's kind of the direction I lean, is to lean towards whatever I seem to be low on. And birthday seems to be one of the ones I'm always the lowest on. So I tend to make them birthday cards, but make them whatever you want them to be. And then now I'm going to start adhering them. I'm opting to make everything flat, so I'm just going to glue it down with my Nuvo Deluxe glue. But you could pop up the leaves if you wanted to and create a little more dimension there. I am going to lift the panel instead. I'm going to add some foam tape behind the panel, giving it a little bit more dimension. But like I said, you could easily, you could just lay it flat and that would be really stunning too. So if you missed last week's video, I do have a challenge going on in my Facebook group this month. It is a spring themed challenge. So last week's video was showcasing kind of my example of a spring themed card set. So if you missed it, you can go and check that out. I'll link it here so it's easy to go and see if you want to check it out. Hopefully you watched that video. I think those cards were stunning. I was really happy with how they came out. But ink blending and alcohol inks are two probably my biggest favorite techniques to play with. So, and if you like vibrant colors, which if you're part of my channel, you probably do, because I do tend towards vibrant colored cards. It's kind of how I roll. But yeah, so you can go and check out that video if you missed it. And, if you're interested, you can come join in the challenge. It is just a little fun challenge on the channel. It's just to make it's in my Facebook group. It's just to make spring themed cards. If you're struggling to come up with something to make, I find that winter makes creating a little hard for me. I get pretty bummed out with winter. So if you're struggling and you need an idea, come create a spring card or spring anything. It doesn't have to be a card. It can be a tag, can be a journal page. It can be a ATC. It can be whatever you want to make, whatever you're feeling creative to sit down and make. Just make it spring themed. Spring themed colored palette, maybe a flower or a butterfly or whatever makes you think of spring. These leaves, I would say, are more fall themed in my opinion, but at least they're white, so that kind of makes it a little lighter and a little more fun. But yeah, whatever you've got, you can, bust it out. I do have my Facebook group linked in the description down below if you want to check it out. It does ask you 2 questions before you can join. The questions are incredibly simple. It's just how you heard about the group and that you're not going to be a jerk while in it. Because that's kind of that's it. And it's a pretty great group. We share animal pictures. Sometimes we share recipes. We share creative projects we're working on. Anything like that. We're just kind of a friendly group of people who just, support each other with crafting. So make sure you join it if that sounds interesting at all to you. So then I brought my card panels into my trimmer. This is just, you can use scissors. You don't have to use a trimmer for this. I just find it easier, honestly, when I have a lot of things kind of hanging off of a card. This is kind of an easy way to make sure that it's lined up and cutting right against the area that the panel is on, especially when I do it from the back here. So you're going to see here, I'm going to cut off this last leaf, and then there was just a sliver of the other leaf left. So I just flipped it over so I could see it a little easier and trimmed that off. And then I have my panel right back to the size that I wanted it at. So just an easy way to kind of make it line up nicely. And I do have the one leaf because I have something sitting off of each side. So to line it up, I do lift that one leaf on the bottom so that I can line against the edge of my trimmer to make sure that it's actually going to be, flush and cut properly. But like I said, if you don't have a trimmer, use scissors. There's no right or wrong here. This is just, it was already on my desk from cutting the Yupo, so it made sense to bust it out. And then here's where I'm going to add my foam tape. And my 5-year-old Mama foam tape is still going strong. This is the Big Mama foam tape from Simon Says Stamp. It's my favorite by a long shot. It's about 1/8 of an inch thick. So it gives you a little bit of dimension without being incredibly bulky, which I love because I do mail a lot of my cards to, pen pals or family or my Happy Mail list. I have a Happy Mail list on my YouTube channel as well. So there's a link to that if you're at all interested. You can go and sign up for that. So I mail a lot of my stuff. So because of that, I try to, add dimension and have interest in my cards, but not really add too much bulk and make them too hard to go through mail machines. So that's kind of why I aim this direction, but there's no right or wrong. Again, you could make flat, glue this flat. You don't have to add the bit of dimension. I just kind of like it on a more simple card. I think that it just looks really nice. And then I'm just going to start adhering them to the bases. So here you can see I have just a thin border of white all the way around when I adhere my panel. Again, that's just because I wanted that little bit of white distinction. You could have left the panel full size and that would have been perfectly fine too. I don't know. I like a little bit of a border when I create cards. Usually I would add black matte, but I find when I do stuff I'm trying for a more light look, the black makes it a little more heavy. So I tend not to add it when I'm going for a certain look in my card panels. Or my card designs. And then here, of course, if you've been with me for any length of time, you know that I love pearls. I love them so much. So of course I had to add just a few across the panel, fill in a little bit of the space, and just add a little bit of something extra. So again, not totally necessary, but I own them and I love them, and I don't see why not. So here is the card designs I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed them. I hope you leave me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday, and of course every second Thursday is a live stream, so you can come hang out. And I do have a goal. I'm trying to hit 25,000 subscribers this year by the end of the year. So if you're not subscribed but you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you. I have a lot of fun stuff going on this year, so it'd be really great to have you back to check that out. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.